Prologue, Part 2.
Link! Hey, Link! Are you up yet?
A child's voice called, dragging Link out of his sleep. Groaning lightly, the young man opened his eyes, wondering if he dreamt the voice. But then another
Link!
rang out from outside, and he knew it was real. He recognized that voice. Talo, and he figured Malo and Beth were probably with him. Judging from the sun coming through his window, Link figured it was nearly 10. That was pretty weird. He didn't normally sleep that late, even on his days off. Maybe he had just been more tired than he realized. In any case, he sat up and stretched before getting out of bed, and stretched some more. Jumping down to the ground level of his home, he inhaled a bit of bread for a quick breakfast before looking at the door. Standing in front of his treehouse was exactly who Link expected. Talo, Malo, and Beth, with Colin off away from them, petting Epona's side. Beth was the oldest, 9, with brunette hair and freckles. Talo stood by her, 8 years old, his black hair a mess, and a red bandana on his head and a stick in his hand. Malo, 4, was right by them. His short hair had a bow on top, and his clothes were a bit too big for him. What really stood out, though, were his piercing green eyes that were far more mature than what was normal. Link never said it out loud, but Malo made him feel a bit uneasy at times.
There you are, Link!
Beth growled, waving up at the young man.
Are you just gonna sleep the day away? Yeah, come on, Link! Something cool's happening!
Talo yelled out excitedly as Link descended the ladder.
There's a slingshot for sale at the store right now! An actual slingshot!
His voice made it seem like it was the most important event of his life. Link grinned and shook his head. Of course it'd be something like this. Talo, in awe over a slingshot, was just like him. Not like Link himself could judge. He was just like that at Talo's age. Honestly, even if you wanted to dismiss it as childish, he couldn't help but want to get his hands on the slingshot too. Some boyish wonders just never died out, he supposed.
Well, if you want it so bad, you can just buy it,
Beth urged.
My parents shop is good prices after all.
Talo huffed and shook his head.
Do you see any rupees in my hand, Beth? Come on, your parents own it, so you can make them lend it to us for a bit, right?
Beth huffed back.
I'd get in trouble if I even asked. Just save up your allowance or something. We get a measly allowance, as it is,
Malo interjected, his voice flat and low. He wasn't whining like Talo was, but stating facts like someone more mature than his older brother.
Now, you three,
Link interrupted, trying to keep the peace.
I reckon I got enough for a simple slingshot. How about I head over and see if I can get it for ya?
He didn't want to admit that he really wanted to try it out himself too.
Really? Thanks, Link. See, Beth, Link will help us out,
Talon said, sticking his tongue out at his friend. The girl rolled her eyes and slapped Talo on the shoulder.
Oh, shush! I told you why I can't help.
Link chuckled and went back into his house, grabbing his wallet. It was filled with a good 50 rupees, surely enough for a toy. Beth's parents tended to have good prices at their shop after all. When he left his home, Beth and Talo were still bickering, and he just left them to it. Before going to the village proper, he stopped over at Colin. How are you faring this morning? Wanna turn with the slingshot too? Colin shrugged, looking from Epona over to Link.
I don't know, I guess. I just came over to tell you I finished the fishing rod I was making. My dad didn't want me to bring it over. He wanted you to come get it. I don't know why. Dad's out today, so why don't you look for my mom and ask her about it?
Oh, the fishing rod. A late birthday present from Colin he had been working on for a while.
Well, shoot, I appreciate it, Colin. I'll go and get it while I'm out.
He really did see Colin as sort of his brother. He had known the boy all his life after all. Was there as he learned to walk, taught him how to handle Epona, things like that. Waving at the kids, Link ventured towards the village. As he entered, he saw people milling about, adults going about their chores, and kids running around and playing. Before long, he saw Hench, Beth's father, a small, meek man with a scrunched-up face. Link remembered Russell called him Henpeck back when he was a kid, and for the longest time he had no idea what it meant. Now, though, he knew, and he agreed. "Hey, Link! Got the day off?" Hench greeted as Link walked by. "Can't say the same myself. Sarah has me working today." Link grinned a bit and shook his head. "Sorry to hear, Hench. Was just on the way to the store now, actually." "Well, you might not be able to buy anything. Our cat's gone missing, so Sarah's in a bad mood." He glanced up, and Link did the same, seeing a hornet's hive up above the tree. "Was thinking of knocking that down while I'm out here. Maybe if I brought home honey, she'd be in a better mood." The younger man winced a bit. "Well, good luck with that, Hash. Don't get stung, alright? I'll see if I can improve Sarah's mood a bit." The store owner always had a soft spot for Link, to the point that the cat was actually named after him. He was hoping the cat was okay, but the young man was sure the rascal was off napping in a soft patch of grass somewhere. Link sauntered over to the shop, figuring he could pick up the fishing rod sometime later. After all, he was going into the village in the first place to get that slingshot. The young man peeked his head in and saw that Sarah was behind the counter as expected. Behind her was some stock, milk, some food items like bread, some jugs, and of course that shiny new slingshot. It was sitting there, just waiting for Link to buy it. Sarah herself was a heavy-set woman with a friendly disposition. Well, usually. As Link walked in, she was rather glum-looking, staring at a half-finished bottle of milk she was turning over in her hand. Link had to wonder if it was alcoholic or not. Surely she wouldn't do that in the morning over a missing cat. As Link entered the shop further, Sarah looked up from her bottle and only peeked up a bit when she saw the young man.
"Oh, morning, Link."
Her tone was flat and uninterested, like Link was an unwanted guest or an annoying customer.
"How you doing, my dear?"
She really was beat up over the furrier, Link. "I'm doing alright, Miss Sarah, but you look downright miserable," Link pointed out as he approached the counter. "Talked to Hatch and he said that, well, your Link is missing." It was always a tad awkward to talk about the cat, given the name situation. The woman let out a sigh and nodded.
Yes. He stole a bit of my dinner last night and I scolded him. Since then he hasn't come back. I was actually hoping that you saw him, my dear."
Sarah always called Link that, my dear. It was her little pet name for him. "Oh, I'm sure he's doing fine," Link assured, leaning against the counter and smiling a bit at Sarah, trying to cheer her up. "You know how cats are. He's probably snoozing off without a care in the world. He'll be back, you'll see."
Maybe,"
Sarah responded, but it didn't look like she was really listening to what Link was saying.
"I've worried myself into an exhaustion worrying about little Link."
Then she trailed off with a sigh. Link quickly understood he was getting nowhere fast. Sarah certainly wasn't going to be up doing any business until her cat came back. She certainly wasn't going to sell him the slingshot. Even if she was willing, Link would have just felt too guilty to then head back. "Don't worry, Miss Sarah. I'll go look for the critter for ya. I'll have him back directly. You'll see." That at least got a bit more of a smile from Sarah.
"Oh, bless your heart, Link. You're a sweet boy, you know that."
"Oh, I know." Link teased a bit, grinning a bit wider as he pushed off the counter and made his way out of the shop. After leaving, he realized he really had no place to start looking. He figured the cat was off napping somewhere, but there were probably about 100 places in Ordon Village alone that the smaller furrier Link could have been curled up in. Not to mention the areas right outside the village. He wasn't particularly fond of spending his days off looking around for lost pet, even if he did promise he would. Still, Link began his search. Really, he just began to look around aimlessly, not sure where to start. The young man just kept thinking of places he suspected that Sarah's pet could be and looked there, but to no avail. In grassy patches, by the flowers, under the porches of every house in the village, and so on. Link also asked a few people if they saw the lost animal, but no one had seen him. As he was walking by the pumpkins, a familiar voice rang out from above. "Oi, Link!" Link looked up to see Talos and Malo's father, Jaggle, standing on top of a nearby rock formation. He was a stout man with an unfortunate face, a very long forehead with a wide, flat nose. The young man had a distant, embarrassing memory about seeing Jaggle's face and crying over it back when he was very young. At the very least, the man had been a good sport about it. "What can I do for you, Jaggle? I am a bit busy at the moment." "I was just saying hey," Jaggle clarified, but his tiny eyebrows furrowed a bit. "What are you busy with? I've seen you. You've just been wandering all over the village." "I reckon I do look a bit silly, huh?" Link replied with a small laugh. "I'm looking for Miss Sarah's cat. I don't suppose you've gone and spotted him sometime today, have ya?" Jaggle's brows raised, and he looked over to his left. "Yeah, actually, I'm looking at him right now. Come up and take a peek." "What, really?" Link exclaimed, climbing the vines that adorned the rock formation and soon joining Jaggle at the top. The stout man pointed, and Link followed his finger. It took him to the small dock at the village's lake. Lo and behold, the lost cat was standing by the water, staring intensely into it, most certainly trying to spot a fish. "Looks like he's trying to find a snack," Jaggle said with a light chuckle. "You didn't think to check the lake first?" Somehow, Link hadn't. For some reason, he imagined the cat sleeping somewhere, not looking for food. He figured if the cat was so hungry, he'd just beg Sarah for a meal. Maybe she had scolded the furrier Link more than she realized if he wasn't going back to her for food. "Well, I just rightly feel silly now. Much obliged, Jaggle." He was truly kicking himself for wandering around so much. "No problem," Jaggle called as Link went over to where the cat was. It took just a minute for Link to reach the lost pet, the furrier Link still staring intently at the water. "Alright, little one, come on," Link mused, reaching down towards the cat. "Miss Sarah's all in a tizzy over ya." He was startled as the cat whipped around and hissed, even swiping at Link's hand. "What in the..." the young man blurted out. "What in tarnation's the matter with you? Don't tell me you're not gonna leave without a fish." Yet, as the cat looked back towards the lake, Link realized that's exactly what this was all about. Sighing, he rubbed the back of his neck. This was getting a bit out of hand, but he didn't want to get covered in scratches by forcing the smaller Link to get back home. Then he remembered. Colin finished his fishing rod. Going back to the main village, Link quickly found Uti standing by the stream that ran through the village and emptied into the wider lake. As he approached, she turned and offered him a small smile. "Oh, good morning, Link. You have the day off, do you?" At this point, it didn't feel like it anymore. "I do, but I was hoping I could get the fishing rod that Colin finished. Said to ask you or Russell about it." "Oh, well, Russell's out right now," Uti responded, then turned towards the stream. "But, Link, have you seen a cradle around? I put it down around here, but now I can't find it. I don't know if it fell into the stream and got washed away. While I go fetch your fishing rod, could you look for it?" Another step to the process, it seems. Still, Link couldn't be mad at Uti, not in a million years. She practically helped raise him for half his life, the absolute sweetheart. "Of course. I'll go take a look. Gotta have a bed for the new baby. I'll get it back in a jiff, don't you worry." "Thank you, Link. You've always been such a polite boy," Uti praised, the only one in the village that called Link a boy still. As the older woman slowly went towards her home, Link figured the best way to look for the cradle was getting high up and looking around. It worked for the cat, after all. By the time Link got back to the rock formation from earlier, Jaggle had already gone elsewhere. Link climbed up the vines and started to look around, sighing through his nose. All of this over a slingshot. Well, he supposed helping his neighbors out made it worth it, but he was still allowed to be annoyed. After a few moments, Link spotted something way off and had to take a minute to understand what he was looking at. Far down into the lake, there was a rocky outcrop, and on it was a monkey. Monkeys lived in the nearby forest, so that wasn't unusual by itself. What was unusual was that the monkey had the cradle in its hands. It was hopping up and down as though in victory over having stolen the object. How in tarnation did it wind up all the way over there with that monkey? It must have snagged it at some point as the cradle floated into the lake. But why? Well, monkeys could be a bit strange after all. The real question was how he was going to get it back. Swimming his way to the monkey was the first idea to pop into his head, but it'd see him and probably run away. As Link pondered the situation, his eyes wandered and he noticed some hawk grass growing nearby. And right away, an idea popped into his head. Leaning down, he grabbed some and looked it over. If he blew into it, it'd produce a sound that would call a hawk over. It was something he had done before. His dad taught him how to use it, and as his mind wandered to that, Link frowned a bit, staring blankly at the hawk grass before shaking his head and returning to reality. Putting the greenery to his lips, Link blew, and the call of a hawk came out of the special plant. It spread far and wide, and a few villagers looked at the commotion. After a few seconds, a hawk called back and flew into view. Holding out his arm, Link smiled a bit as the bird landed gently on his limb, though even then the talons dug in a bit. Ignoring the pain, Link pointed at the cradle, the hawk following his finger. "Go on, get it," the young man commanded. The hawk flew right where it was directed. As the hawk sped towards its target, the monkey let out a surprised screech that even Link could hear from so far away. Before the beast could dodge or run away, the hawk sunk its talons into the cradle, snatching it from the monkey's grip. Carrying its prize, the hawk returned to Link, who caught the cradle as the bird dropped it from above. As if sensing that its purpose was done, the hawk flew off, and Link let out a sigh of relief. Thank Faron, now he could get moving with his tasks. As Link hopped down from the rock, he saw Uti approaching, fishing rod in hand. "Link, perfect timing," she pointed out with a grin as the two exchanged objects. "Thank you. I had no idea what I'd do if I couldn't get this back." "It was no problem at all, Uti," Link assured, looking over the fishing rod. Colin had done a mighty fine job with it. "Cut it back as easy as can be. Now you can go home and rest up. You look plumb exhausted. Want me to carry the cradle back for you?" "It's nice of you to worry, but I can handle it," Uti responded gently. "I think I might just take a quick breather." Taking a small breath, she slowly made her way back home. With that settled, there was just one thing left to do. Link sauntered back to the dock where his namesake was still staring at the lake. Looking under some nearby rocks, the young man quickly found a worm and got it hooked as he cast it into the water. It was Rusi that taught him how to fish a few years back. The two spent a lot of time sitting quietly, just waiting for a nibble as the morning sun peeked over the horizon. Link was swiftly taken out of his thoughts as he felt a tug and saw the blubber go beneath the water. "All right, buddy, get ready," he called to the cat, who stayed in place but watched Link's action in a passive interest. The Hylian pulled and reeled, the water splashing as the wriggling fish rose closer to the surface. Within moments, the fish was pulled from the water entirely and Link held it up. "There we go. Real beaut of a green girl," Link chirped as he unhooked the catch. He barely had time to lean down to give the catch to his namesake when the cat leapt up and snatched the fish from his hand. In a flash, the feline darted away, leaving a startled Link behind, who grinned and rolled his eyes at the sight. Barely even so much as a gesture of thanks from that spoiled cat. Walking back around to the main part of the village, Link barely had time to notice the cat going into his kitty door at Sarah's store. Thank goodness, all of that was sorted out. Entering the store once more, Link saw a much happier Sarah who was watching the furrier Link chow down on the fish in the corner. She beamed at Link as she entered.
Oh, my dear, my sweetheart came back. All he wanted was a fish.
The woman then noticed the fishing rod in Link's hand.
Did you catch it for my little Link? Oh, you're such a sweetheart, you know that.
The young man chuckled and shrugged. It was nothing. Just caught a little green girl for the fella, snatched it right out of my hand and came running.
Well, I appreciate it quite a bit, my dear. Thinking of it, you probably didn't come in earlier just to visit me, huh?
Sarah mused. Oh, well, I always get time to say hi to a pretty lady, Link teased as he approached the counter. Sarah giggled and waved her hand.
Link, you rascal. You don't mean that, but I'll pretend like I don't know that.
She cleared her throat, composed herself.
Now, what do you need, my dear?
Link gestured to the slingshot, the object finally in his grasp. I'd like the slingshot there, Miss Sarah. She raised a brow at that.
Oh, Link, you naughty boy. Don't go causing too much mischief with that thing, all right?
I won't, don't you worry, Miss Sarah, Link promised, handing over 30 rupees for the slingshot. When he finally had it in his hand, he felt a sense of relief, but also a bit silly. All that trouble he went through just to get a toy because Talo wants to see it. Though he supposed it wasn't the most ridiculous thing he's done. As he left the shop, Link glanced up at the beehive that Hatch was still eyeing. Figuring he'd try his skills with the toy out, the young man stayed right at the shop's door and found a small rock nearby. Putting it into the slingshot, he pulled the band back and aimed carefully, one eye shut. After taking aim, he let the projectile fly, and it hit the nest. More than that, it struck near the top, where the nest was connected to the tree, causing the hive to plummet to the ground. When the structure hit the ground below, it burst open, and a small swarm of angry hornets emerged. They saw Hatch as the closest being to the hive and apparently assumed it was his fault somehow. The man let out a cry as the bugs chased him, and he stupidly went straight for the lake, crying out as other villagers gave him a wide berth. When he went under, the hornets waited for him to emerge, and attacked him once he came out for a breath. What followed was a drastic play as Hatch kept moving around the lake, diving under and resurfacing to try and escape the hornets. Villagers yelled at him to just go inside, which the small man eventually did, ducking into a nearby home for shelter. After that, the hornets buzzed around for a bit before flying away. Hylian hornets were known to relocate quickly if a nest was destroyed, more than other similar insects. Link watched all this unfold and felt rather guilty. Hans didn't get stung enough for it to be threatening to his life, but Link wasn't thinking and caused the whole situation. He didn't think he'd cause the hive to fall like that. Why did he choose a target like that to begin with? Feeling ashamed, he gathered his fishing rod and scurried back home, head down as his face burned with embarrassment. At the very least, he didn't think anyone saw him. Still feeling awful when he got back home, Link saw Talo and Beth had stopped arguing as the young boy was swinging his stick around as Beth and Malo watched. Colin had stayed by Epona, watching Talon while patting at the mare. Things quickly changed once Link approached and everyone saw what was in his hands.
Link, you got it, a slingshot!
Talo crowed as he, Beth, and Malo rushed over.
It took you a long time,
Malo bluntly pointed out, giving Link an almost judgmental look.
I bet you were off making smoochy faces at Ilya or something,
Talo teased with a grin.
You didn't go off to kiss her or something, did you?
Link scoffed and shook his head. No, nothing like that. Miss Sarah is upset about something. It's a long story, so let's just forget it, huh? Link didn't want to go over all that again, and he especially didn't want to mention the hornet incident. And Colin, your fishing rod helped me out, so thank you kindly for it. Colin seemed a bit confused at that.
I don't really get it, but I'm glad you like it, Link.
The quiet boy murmured, a small smile present on his face.
Come on, show us!
Talo yelled out in excitement, eyes shining as he looked up at the slingshot. Beth rolled her eyes.
Talo's never gonna shut up unless you show off that stupid toy, so I guess you might as well.
Though her tone was harsh, she had the same look in her eyes as Talo, giving away that she was also excited for Link to show off the slingshot. Link let out a chuckle and nodded. Don't worry, I'll show what this thing can do, and then y'all can get a turn.
All right! Let's see if you can hit that, Link!
Talo exclaimed, pointing up at some fruit growing from a nearby tree. Aw, that's too easy, but if you insist, Link teased, picking up a small rock from near his feet and took aim. After a second, he let the stone fly and it hit the fruit and made it burst. This got a cheer from the kids, getting a chuckle from Link. So, the group had fun with the slingshot. Link was given a few more targets, each one harder than the last. For the most part, he hit them all on his first try, which he found pretty surprising. He never used a slingshot before, but something about it just felt natural to him. Like he had used one before. But he just ignored the feeling. It wasn't important. Talo, Malo, and Beth all had their turns too. Though Colin was invited to join in, he opted to watch. Beth did a decent job hitting most of her targets, but Malo was second to Link in skill, which was both surprising yet somehow expected by the others. Talo did the worst by far, only hitting one or two of his targets, causing him to stamp his feet in frustration. Once the slingshot got its use, Talo huffed and changed the subject.
Hey, Link. You've still got that wooden sword, right? How about you show us some moves?
Yes, do it, Malo seconded. I command you to show us some sword moves. Beth clapped a bit and nodded.
Yeah, come on, Link. Please, just a bit.
Talo huffed again.
Those monkeys have been coming out of the woods and playing tricks on us.
He swung his stick defiantly, hitting empty air.
We want to teach them a thing or two.
Now hold on. Link started frowning. Don't go out pick fights, you hear? If you're gonna use a sword, it's to protect yourself, not looking for trouble. He was very serious, practically scolding the three for Talo's suggestion. Link's sudden seriousness surprised the trio, but all of them nodded.
I wasn't being that serious, Link. Come on.
Talo insisted.
I can't even use a sword. I just want to see you use one.
Beth added on.
Come on, just show us a few moves.
Sighing a bit, Link nodded. All right. As long as you promise not to go looking for trouble. Just give me a second. He quickly went up the ladder to his home, taking the slingshot and fishing rod with him. After a minute or two, he came back with his wooden sword and practice dummy, which was practically a few poles and a pumpkin head with some old rusted armor that Link found thrown over it. It was Russell that told Link how to use a sword at a young age, but that being said, Link never used a real one, just the wooden one that the old man gave him for his birthday a few years ago. As he found, Link was naturally gifted with swordsplay, even surprising Russell with his skills. Not that Link felt he surpassed his teacher, but he was also shocked at how easily he picked up the craft. After setting up the practice dummy, Link took the wooden sword to his left hand and took a few deep breaths. Even Colin came closer to look at the action, eyes wide in wonderment as Link got ready. These kids began to cheer as Link went off on the dummy, striking it swiftly and then with heavy blows. It was hard to do anything impressive against something that couldn't fight back, but it was enough to entertain the quartet of kids. He did his best, though, using spins and twirling the blade in one hand, using forward strikes and backhanded blows, and the children just ate it up. They especially loved it when Link let out a cry and unleashed a final stab, hitting the pumpkin head and making it burst into dozens of pieces, and that got a cheer out of Talo and Beth.
All right, way to go, Link!
Talo exclaimed, swinging around his stick trying to mimic Link's moves.
Now, if any of these monkeys mess with us...
He trailed off and his eyes widened as he looked at something behind Link's back. Everyone turned to look and saw a monkey was there, a red flower in her fur like an ornament. The monkey screeched in surprise and hurried off towards the bridge. Link turned and saw a gleam in Talo's eyes. Hey, don't you...
Get it! Come on!
Talo howled as he, Malo, and Beth ran after the monkey. Colin was the only one of the kids who stayed behind.
Wait, guys. Link said not to go looking for trouble.
Hey, get back here! Link yelled, but the 3 kids didn't listen and were soon out of sight. He started to walk after them, but Colin grabbed onto his hand.
Link, maybe we should get my dad,
the younger boy urged, eyes wide with fear.
He can handle this.
I don't want to bother him for something like this, Link argued back, trying to take his arm back from Colin gently, but the boy kept a firm grip.
Come on, they're getting faster away. I can handle this.
The young man was just fuming. He just got through telling those kids not to pick fights, and they instantly go out and do it. He yanked his arm more forcefully, forcing Colin to let go.
You wait here, okay?
Not waiting for an answer, Link tore off towards the path that the 3 kids went down. They could move fast when they wanted, and though Link was running as fast as he couldn't spot them ahead. At least, that's how it was at first. To Link's dismay, he soon reached a fork in the path. One took him deeper into the dark woods, and other into a clearing. Looking at the clearing closer, Link saw there was a person sitting by an unlit campfire. Going towards the person, Link took a closer look and saw it was a man, sitting by a wooden shack. The man had darker skin and bushy, thick hair, which, strangely enough, had a bird's nest perched on top of it. In the nest were green-feathered and cream-feathered birds roosting round, like all was normal. Link also noted the man had rounded ears, so he wasn't from Hyrule.
Hey, guy, haven't had any guests around you for a while,
the stranger called as Link grew close.
Name's Koro. What's yours?
Name's Link, the Hylian greeted, but quickly moved on.
Hey, you didn't see a kid chasing a monkey around here, did ya? You should have passed by just a few minutes ago.
Koro shook his head.
Nah, I've been sitting here for a while and haven't seen anyone. I thought I heard some commotion back from where you came a few minutes ago. Guess that kid went off towards where the forest temple is.
The forest temple? Link heard whispers of that place. From what he heard, it was made by Ordonians years and years ago, long before anyone around was alive. Apparently, it was made to appease the forest spirits of the Lost Woods, especially the father of the forest himself, the great Deku tree. Link heard campfire stories of how the temple didn't appease anyone, and in fact, the Deku tree cursed the place, and it was now swarming with dark spirits and monsters. Link just chalked those up to ghost stories, meant to scare him, but the idea of Talo heading that way still made him uneasy.
Thanks,
Link said curtly as he turned around.
I'll be heading that way then. Hold on,
Koro insisted, prompting Link to turn back around.
I feel ya, wanting to help your friend, but those woods are dangerous. Even in the middle of the day, it gets dark like it's nighttime. Here.
He reached into a nearby bag of his and pulled out a lantern.
It's an emergency, so I'll let you have this. I sell lantern oil, so that lantern's all filled to the brim.
Link never used a lantern before, but he saw the little knob on the side and turned it. Lo and behold, a flame was lit, lighting up the area even more. He never went into this part of the wood, so he took Koro's word about how dark it was.
Much obliged. I promise I'll return it when I'm done with it. No rush, man,
Koro called as Link turned back once more and rushed towards the fork on the road.
I hope you find your buddy, guy.
Link just hurried, not even calling back to Koro as he rushed. Every second he spent talking was another second Talo was getting further away. Of course, he was nervous about entering a dangerous part of the wood, but he pushed that feeling down, knowing he had to be courageous and help his friend. After reaching the crossroad again, Link plunged into an alternative path and found that Koro had been right. Less than a minute after entering this other path, things grew much darker, as if hours had passed in mere moments. It wasn't pitch black, but without the lantern he certainly would have been in trouble. The flickering flame helped guide Link as he went forward, the young man feeling as though many unseen eyes were upon him. Still though, he had to keep pushing forward. Taking a deep breath, he yelled out,
Talo! Come on, Talo! Where'd you go?
His voice was practically swallowed by the darkness, muted, and didn't appear to travel very far. However, His words did stir something, or rather a lot of little somethings, as small yellow eyes appeared from the trees and darted at Link. Flinching, he turned to the creatures approaching and heard the flapping of wings and chittering of creatures. He knew that sound. It was a group of keys. Grunting in annoyance, he thrust the lantern in their direction, lighting up the flying beasts who screeched out in pain as the bright flame's light hit them. Keys were something he was familiar with, the little creatures sometimes flying close to the village at night. Link gave the air a few swings with his sword as the keys fled, just for good measure as they departed. Keys on their own weren't too dangerous, not for an adult at least. Talo may just have been smart enough that they'd really pose a threat. Gritting his teeth, he rushed forward more, and as he went, something sprang out from the ground in front of him. The thing emerged from a planty bulbous orb on the forest floor, the creature itself resembling a plant. It was mostly green tendril that ended in a blue head with a mouth filled with sharp teeth and even a tongue. Link had heard stories about these. Russell called them Deku Babas. Yes, that was it. In all honesty, the young man hadn't been sure they were real. The creatures drooled as it seemed to somehow stare at Link, despite having no eyes. Letting out a hiss, it reared back and lunged at him. With a cry in defiance, Link slashed at the creature, his wooden sword more than able to knock it away. Being blunt enough, though, it didn't do as much damage as he would have liked. He stepped back as it came for him again, and gave a horizontal slash, aiming for the slimmer, more vulnerable green appendage instead. As it turned out, this was the right call. Despite his bluntness, the wooden sword managed to slice through the appendage, effectively cutting the Deku Baba in half. Its head fell on the ground and thrashed about for a moment or two before going limp. Panting a bit, Link gave the head a good thwack, just in case, but it was truly dead. Now, if something like that caught Talo, Link didn't even want to think about it. Link rushed ahead, sometimes having to fend off keys and the occasional Deku Baba, but saw no signs of Talo. Just how fast could the boy run? Before long, though, he stopped when he saw something in his path. On the ground was a stick, but not just any stick. It was Talo's. It had cloth wrapped around both ends to help with the grip, and so Talo didn't hurt anything too seriously with the other end. Picking up the stick, Link looked around widely, but saw no trace of the boy.
Talo? Talo, you answer me right now if you can hear me.
Once more, the darkness all but swallowed his voice, refusing to let it carry on. Now Link was sprinting, ignoring when a branch or bush snagged on him, small cuts appearing on his arms and face as he moved as fast as he could manage. He entered a large clearing, the sunlight a bit better but still abnormally dark. Marching through the area, Link soon went along the other side and apparently came out of the dark part of the forest, sunlight overhead like normal. He found himself in a strange area, though everything since getting the lantern had been strange and new. Ahead of him was a tree so large that at first he could hardly believe it. It was gigantic, so large that if it was put on its side, it'd dwarf Ordon Village itself. There was a bridge leading up to it, the tree itself a distance away and past the sheer cliff drop. Strangely, the bridge actually looked natural, like the true grid itself to give others a way to reach it. The energy in the air felt unusual. To Link's right was more trees, and something about them was just off, like he shouldn't go anywhere near them. And then the gigantic tree itself gave off a sort of power, like it was radiating from its bark. He had to wonder, was the tree itself the forest temple, carved out of a mighty tree by humans centuries ago? Link was so baffled by his surroundings that he stopped in place to look around. He jolted, and his blood went cold when a voice tore through the silence.
Help! Link? Dad? Help!
It was Talo's voice, and it was coming from the large tree. Running across the bridge, Link felt the energy in the air grow stronger and stronger. It wasn't a bad feeling or anything that impeded him, but it was something he felt in his bones and made him suspect even more that the tree was indeed the forest temple itself. There, Link stopped in his tracks at the sight they came across. Talo was trapped in a wooden cage, the monkey that he'd been chasing off into the forest in there with him. The two were cowering, Talo staring wide-eyed as Link came into view. That wasn't all, however. Standing on either side of the cage as though guarding it were two monsters the likes of which Link had never seen before. They were humanoid, but were clearly something else entirely. They were hideous creatures with purple skin, lanky limbs, and elongated faces with sharp teeth. Notably, there were signs of humanity in them, wearing leather pants and shoes, their white hair tied in ponytails, and they even had weapons. They were like clubs, but with spiked bits at the top. Link stared at the creatures, something picking away at the back of his mind. He was so sure he had never seen beasts like this before, but something about them just seemed familiar too, somehow. But why? He had never ventured into this part of the forest, not even once. Yet he couldn't stop and think as the two creatures eyed him and let out haggard noises that the youth realized was some sort of crackling. He thought maybe there was a chance he could speak to them, however small it was. They were clothed and had weapons. There had to be some sort of humanity in them, right? "All right, you two. Just let the boy go, and we'll leave, all right?"
Link, just attack them! They're monsters!
Talo urged, a mix of fear and hope in his tone as he gripped the bars of his wooden prison. The boy was right, as the two creatures didn't acknowledge Link's word at all. They didn't speak or pause. In fact, the two approached, brandishing their weapons as they snarled at the newcomer. "If that's how you want it," Link murmured, getting into a battle stance. He had never faced true combat before, but he wasn't about to let his friend down. With a roar, one of the purple humanoids lunged at Link, swinging fiercely yet sloppily with its weapon. Apparently, it had never trained a day in its life, just lashing out with wild abandon at its target. Link leapt to the side, dodging the blow easily and stabbing the monster in the gut with his sword. Being wooden, this didn't do much except send the beast staggering back with a pained snarl. With one monster temporarily distracted, Link lunged at the other, giving it a horizontal slash across its chest. This knocked it to the ground, and Link quickly saw an issue. This wooden sword wasn't made for killing, not quickly or efficiently at least. At best, he'd have to beat them into unconsciousness, but for how long could something like that take? It'd take time to break that cage, so he couldn't just do that and run whenever he felt like it. He had to take the monsters down for the count. Glancing around, Link quickly saw the solution. Of course, the ledges. They were all so high up, no way could these monsters survive a fall like that. Slowly, the young fighter backed up towards the nearest edge, needing to draw the monsters over to him. He watched as the two creatures quickly recovered from the blows and started to close in on him, anger in their beady little eyes. One of them lunged forward, and Link parried the blow with his wooden sword, knocking the purple-skinned monster off its balance. While it was staggering, Link smashed into its face with his sword and knocked it to the floor. This prompted the second one to go for him, and Link saw his chance. He quickly sidestepped his attack and moved behind the creature, and jabbed his back with his sword. This made it stumble forward and reach the ledge of the wooden platform everyone was on. It reached the edge and barely caught itself before falling, but Link swiftly stepped forward and slashed it again and threw it off its precarious balance. With a shriek, the monster fell off and plummeted down and out of sight. It screamed all the way down, its shouts fading before stopping abruptly. As this happened, the other monster got up and rushed to Link as well, not appearing to have learned from its companion's error. Or at least it looked that way at first, as when Link dodged to the side, it brought itself to a halt and swung at him. Link barely managed to block the attack, and he heard and felt the sword splinter a bit in his grasp. Pain shot through his arm as well from the impact, but not enough to keep him from fighting. Link pushed the weapon away and whacked the monster right across the face with his wooden blade, knocking it to the ground. Seeing his chance, Link grabbed it by the hair and forced it to its feet, kicking it harshly in the stomach as it toppled towards the platform's edge. Unlike its companion, this one didn't manage to catch itself and fell right off, screeching as it fell to its death. Talo watched all of this unfold, his expression changing from fear to worry to even a bit of awe as the battle went on. When it was over, he let out a small cheer.
Link, that was awesome! Now come on, help me out of this thing, more might come.
The young man took a second to catch his breath and approached the cage. All right, Talo. Duck down and cover your head. The boy did as he was told, and though it understood, the monkey did so as well. Link readied his sword and smashed it onto the top half of the cage. As it turned out, it was more shoddily made than it looked, and to Link's surprise, it burst into pieces with that one strike. As soon as the cage was destroyed, the monkey leapt away, climbing the massive tree and vanishing from sight. Talo slowly stood up, gulping as he clearly realized just how much trouble he was in.
I was chasing the monkey, and those two found us and made us come here,
Talo explained, as if that may get him in less trouble. The stern glare that Link was giving him made it clear that wasn't the case, and he practically wilted. Just follow me. We're going straight home, Link replied coldly, having to hold back his anger. He really wanted to slap Talo aside the head for doing something so stupid, but now was not the time. Link took Talo's stick out and practically shoved it into the boy's hands. Come on, stick close. Talo didn't say a word and simply followed Link as the two went back. After crossing the bridge, Link swore he felt eyes on him from the nearby cluster of trees. However, when he looked, he saw nothing there, but he swore he heard footsteps of the children. The trip back was tense and near silent. Link kept Talo right next to him in case anything came out of the woods to attack. Thankfully, it went by without a hitch, and it wasn't until they passed over the bridge did Talo finally speak up again.
Link, what are you going to do with me anyway?
About the worst thing you can think of, Link replied curtly. I'm gonna march you right to your parents, and you can explain them what you did. Talo's face paled at that, but he gulped and nodded, accepting such a punishment.
I'm really sorry, Link. I didn't mean to cause so much trouble.
Well, if you just listened, none of that would have happened, Link snapped, unable to stop himself. His rage was born out of worry. He was terrified the entire time that something might have snatched Talo and spirited him away, never to be found. I told you not to go picking fights, and you went and did it anyway. You were lucky not to get eaten. This made Talo start to tear up, but he nodded at Link's words, clearly understanding the boy's frustration.
I know. I'm really sorry,
he repeated, and then quieted down again. After Link securely locked the gate behind him, he and Talo continued on back home. All the other kids were gone, having clearly gone back to the village. Standing by Link's home was Jaggle and his wife, Pergy, a heavy-set woman with short brown hair and a bit of a white face. They were relieved to see Talo, Pergy even tearing up a bit as she held the boy close. At Link's prompting, Talo explained the situation, making it clear that Link had warned about looking for trouble. Jaggle and Perry's relief turned into parental anger, with Pergy starting to drag Talon back home by the ear. I can't help but feel a bit responsible, Link confessed to Jaggle, the young man letting out a sigh. I told him not to go chasing the monkey, but I also showed off my swordsmanship. I should have known that'd excite the kids. No, those boys know better, Jaggle insisted with a sigh and a shake of the head. And you went and saved Talo, so even if it was your fault, you more than made up for it. Pergy and I owe you a great deal, Link. How about you come over and we'll treat you to a big dinner or something? Link was relieved Jaggle didn't blame him, even though the young man still felt at fault. though he knew Jaggle had a point, if it was his fault, he went out and fixed it. And that offer sure was tempting. Pergy was a mighty fine cook. I can't argue against an offer like that, Jaggle. I'm just glad everyone came out of this safe and sound, you know. Well, Talo's not going to be when Pergy's done with him, Jaggle chuckled. I should go and make sure she doesn't wallow him too badly. After that, the two said their farewells, and Jaggle half ran back into the village. Link sighed and looked over to Epona, who had patiently awaited his return. It was only when he saw how the sun hit her coat that he realized it was late afternoon already. Had that much time passed? He hadn't eaten a bit all day thinking of it. Yo, Link! A voice called, and Link turned to see Russell approaching. I just passed Jaggle a second ago, and just after Colin told me what happened, Talo really went off into the woods that far? He had a paradoxical look of relief and worry on his face. Yeah, well, I suppose you already heard the story twice, so I won't bog you down with it. I'm just glad everything ended up okay. Link was exhausted and just wanted to get some sleep, especially with tomorrow being such a big day. So much for his day off. Those monsters. Jaggle said they had weapons? Russell pushed, the little relief he was showing melting away. That's what you told him? Link nodded. Yeah, they wore pants, had weapons, and their hair in ponytails, like they were some kind of half-human beasts or something. He had never seen anything like it. Are you sure you're okay? I mean, I see you're not hurt, but you're fine, right? The older man's voice grew heavy with concern. I said I'm alright? What are you pushing at? Link asked, more confusion than anything. He had no idea what Russell was trying to really ask. For a few moments, Russell just stared at Link, then nodded. Alright, I trust you. You should get some shut-eye done. Got that big day tomorrow, and you don't want to look exhausted in front of the princess, huh? He let out a small laugh, giving Link a slap on the shoulder. No, sir, wouldn't want that. Link agreed, but he still felt like Russell was trying to get at something without fully saying it, but he couldn't tell what that something would be. After the two parted ways, Link went over and patted Epona on the neck a few times before heading up to his house. The rest of the day he spent in silence, getting something in his belly and heading up to bed early. As he laid in bed, he kept thinking about the monsters he killed. They were clearly intelligent to some degree. Was it okay to kill them? No, it had to be alright. Those things were going to kill Talo if he hadn't interfered. Still, something about it just didn't sit right with Link. He never really had to fight in such a serious manner before, so he figured that's all it was. Yet there was also the fact that those monsters seemed oddly familiar to him, and he couldn't understand why. He was so busy worrying about the monsters, he didn't even have time to fret about going to Hyrule the next day. Link barely had time to even think of how nervous he was going to be presenting the blade to Princess Zelda herself. His eyes closed, and he felt his body relax as sleep came for him. Just as he was drifting off, he heard that howling again, and it seemed a bit closer this time. He'd have to talk to Russell tomorrow about keeping an eye out for wolves. Strange how sad the howling was.